All right. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Scott Peterson, Board Chair of Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions, and I want to welcome you to Roadmap to a Clean Energy Future, Energy Audits and Incentives. Today's webinar is the latest installment of our Climate Champions webinar series. In a moment, I'm going to introduce our presenters who have some truly exciting information for your faith communities about new grant opportunities from Fairfax County, as well as Dominion Energy's savings program for small and large places of worship. At the end, there'll be time for a Q&A, and you may also post your questions in the chat as we go along. Upon conclusion, FACS will soon email all participants follow-up materials, including slides from today, and a link to the recording of the program. Remember, you can always reach FACS at info@faithforclimate.org. So allow me to introduce Neely Law of Fairfax County's Office of Environment and Energy Coordination, her colleague Kevin Smith, and Kevin Previs of Dominion Honeywell's commercial programs. Finally, I do want to acknowledge behind the scenes running today's event is FACS's own Christine Montanez. Now with that, I'll turn it over to you, Neely.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Scott and Christine, for the invitation to continue the dialogue with the faith community about how the county can support faith communities reach their climate action goals. So for today's presentation, I will provide information and resources for places of worship to take climate action related to energy efficiency of your buildings and the cost savings associated with it. Following the county's presentation, Kevin Previs will present information on Dominion's energy savings program. So for the first part of this webinar, I wanted to just provide a very brief overview about the Fairfax County climate action plans and how we are all really working together to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Provide an overview or the why do I need to look at building energy performance, and then I'm going to hand it over to Kevin, who will go through a step-by-step guide to Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which is really a key tool to evaluate your building energy use. I will end our section of the webinar talking about a new financial incentive opportunity provided by the county and with resources and contact information for any follow-up. So Fairfax County has climate plans that address both the cause and the effect of climate change. On the cause side, we are doing our part in the global effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions that contribute to climate change. The Community-Wide Energy and Climate Action Plan, or CCAP, addresses emissions generated within the community and identifies actions to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. Kevin Smith, my co-presenter today, is the manager who is implementing the operational energy strategy, which focuses on the county government buildings and operations with a goal to be carbon neutral by 2040. On the effect side, we have Resilient Fairfax, and these plans go hand in hand. Resilient Fairfax is an integrated action plan to address the local impacts of climate change. Resilient Fairfax ensures that our infrastructure, public services, our population, natural resources can better withstand the impacts of climate change before, during, and after an event. And as you know, on the cause side, building energy use is one of the largest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. So consequently, a key strategy for the community and the county to take is to reduce energy consumption, thereby reducing our carbon emissions associated with that. So Climate Champions is one of the CCAP programs managed through our office, with the goal to activate, support, and celebrate actions taken by the community to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The Climate Champions nonprofit pilot is an initiative with Faith Alliance for Climate Solution, or FACS. They were an ideal candidate to do this pilot as they had campaigns ready to go that addressed building energy efficiency and renewable energy in the faith community. Our staff is providing technical support, such as this webinar, to assist FACTS build out this program and to engage with faith communities. One of the programs is Solar Sanctuaries, and FACTS has talked about this program in previous webinars. But just to briefly recap, Solar Sanctuaries is a program where a place of worship would become a community serving facility, providing support and resources to residents before, during, and after emergency events. Key to being a solar sanctuary is improving the energy efficiency to lower energy consumption and creating energy resilience through clean energy and battery storage. Our goal for this program with FACTS is to have at least 10 places of worship commit to or complete an energy audit by the end of the year while continuing to implement actions in 2024. So we hope this webinar provides those resources for you to take action, empower your places of worship, provide some motivation to continue your journey to achieve your climate action goals. So before I hand it over to Kevin, I just wanted to talk about building energy performance and why we're really driving this point home about improving your energy efficiency prior to taking any larger actions, such as renewable energy. So the Energy Star Portfolio Manager, first and foremost, helps you track building energy use by entering energy bills for at least 2 years. As you begin to use Portfolio Manager and implement energy actions, you can begin to see how those actions are resulting in reduction in energy use. This, of course, translates to lower utility costs as well as lower greenhouse gas emissions. The Portfolio Manager, we think, provides an easy to understand 0 to 100 scoring system that would help you understand where you are relative to other places of worship in terms of your building energy efficiencies. Having that quote unquote score will help you identify if you're on the low end. I might have a lot of opportunities to increase our energy resilience, but if you have, or energy efficiency and resilience, if you have a score of 75 or higher, you may be certified as an Energy Star building. So there are a lot of advantages to using the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So lastly, I want to use the phrase that knowledge is power, and using Portfolio Manager will help you to inform you as you seek professional services to complete an energy audit. So I'm going to hand it over to Kevin to walk through and provide you with a step-by-step guide on using Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Kevin?
Thanks, Neely. As was mentioned earlier, I think we'll be sending these slides out after the presentation. So if you don't catch everything, you can use this kind of step-by-step guide as you go to set up your building in Portfolio Manager, if you so choose. Yeah, so Neely provided a brief overview, but really Portfolio Manager is a tool that allows you to benchmark your buildings, your place of worship's energy performance, and kind of how you compare to similar buildings, other places of worship, similar buildings in our climate area, to get a sense of where the opportunities and how much opportunities might be there for energy savings and energy improvements. Again, you touched a little bit on this, but there's many good, important reasons to use it. And really, it can be a great starting point on your energy journey. But really, at any point on your energy journey, whether you've already implemented measures or not, it's a great opportunity to assess where you're at and then track over time kind of your long-term performance. Make sure that if you did do some energy upgrades, that you're actually seeing the savings on your utility bills and really maintaining those savings over the long term. Here's a list of kind of all the data fields that are input into Portfolio Manager. to be able to generate an Energy Star score. You'll just note here the data fields marked with blue stars are what actually go into calculating your Energy Star score from 1 to 100. And also, when you first go through and set up your building, a lot of these you can use kind of a default value. You'll want to make sure that you go back later and change those values to real values to make sure your Energy Star score is as accurate as possible. So now I'll go through kind of step by step how to set up your facility or multiple facilities in Portfolio Manager if you're not familiar with the platform. So basically there's 4 steps to this process. If you don't have an account on Energy Star already, you need to set one up. Then you create kind of a building profile, kind of the physical and background data associated with your building. Then you actually add the utility data, energy data, so electricity and natural gas, if you have it, is required. You can also do other utilities like water. And then finally, the tool generates results and other information that can help you kind of plan your next steps on your energy journey. So just to touch on the steps of creating a profile, really the easiest way to access the Portfolio Manager login screen is just do a Google search, as we have here. You could search Energy Star Portfolio Manager, make an account. We also have the URL listed. So if you don't have an account already, you just click that create a new account button. Pretty basic information about yourself. None of these fields will go into an Energy Star score for any of your buildings. And just to note here that some organizations like to have a login that is shared by multiple staff within the organization. So you all have access to the building or buildings. But you can also have individual accounts, and maybe one staff person sets up your building in Portfolio Manager, and then that person has the ability to share to other staff if they want access. So when you're done, click on create my account. Now you have your account set up, and it's time to add a property. So you'll go to this landing screen and click on the add a property button. Here's where you kind of define the physical aspects and background information on the building. You first select the property type, and fortunately worship facility is one of the property types. The next section is on properties building. So there's a little flexibility here. If you have a property where you might have multiple physical separate buildings, say like a worship space, a sanctuary, and then a separate building maybe for a school, maybe a separate building for office spaces, or kind of like a rectory, a residential space. It allows you to set up a single property with multiple buildings. Alternatively, you could set up individual properties for each building. It's just kind of your own preference. And then the last part, I think for most people on the call, you'll be selecting existing. But if you did have a new facility under construction, you could choose design project. You could potentially look at different design alternatives and how that might affect your energy efficiency and Energy Star score. And then the test property option is really nice if you're just trying to learn more about the tool and what the features are without worrying about messing up anything with your actual building. You can do that test property option. So once that screen is completed, it'll take you to this screen, which has a little more granular details about your building. This ties back to the earlier slide, so you can see those blue stars. Those are the most important data points that go into actually calculating your Energy Star score. The others are just there for kind of reporting purposes only. And then you can also see in that middle column, the checkboxes for use the default. You need to, when you first go and set up a property, you need to fill in all these fields. But if you don't have the exact information on hand at the time, you can just click use a default. Once that is selected, you have the ability, if you have a single building or multiple buildings that you want to include on the same property, you can click that drop down that says add another type of use. So you can define your square footage of sanctuary or worship space, maybe square footage of office space, classroom, residential, etc. The important thing here is just to make sure all the square footages of your different use types add up to the total square footage that you entered earlier. Once all your different types are entered, you hit that add property and it brings you to this page. So your property is set up. And then the next step is inputting energy data. So there's a link at the top that's boxed in red there. So click on add energy use information. And then it takes you to this screen. You just pick the energy sources that you have. For a lot of you, it's going to be electricity and natural gas. Some buildings are all electric. So you just pick the ones that are appropriate. Then you set up your meters, which basically a meter is a utility account. So the important thing here is to make sure that the units that you select correspond to the units that are on that utility bill. And then also the date meter became active corresponds to the oldest utility bill you have that you're going to be entering data for the start of the billing period. So every utility account is different. Some billing periods start at the beginning of the month, some in the middle, some at the end. It's different from your bill date. On your bills, you should be able to see basically this energy was taken from this date to this date. So you look back at your oldest bill and what's the first date. Once that is entered, then you actually enter the energy use data, and they give you two options. You can input that manually by clicking on that click to add entry link, or you can download a spreadsheet. If you're already tracking your monthly energy use in a spreadsheet, you can pretty easily just copy and paste into their template form and then re-upload it. The important thing to note here is you can't have any gaps in time period. So if you can see on that bottom chart, the end date of 1 month has to be the same as the start date of the next month. If your bills for some reason are not continuous and there's a day or two gap in your utility bills, you just want to make sure in this chart that you kind of make the dates continuous. That won't really affect the accuracy of your score, but if you don't have continuous dates in here, you won't be able to generate an Energy Star score. And then once you've uploaded your energy data, the tool will generate this data. So you can see the graph of your energy use over time by month if you've entered it monthly. And then on the right, assuming there's no errors or issues with your inputs, you'll get an Energy Star score. The current score is based on the last 12 months of energy data, and the baseline score is by default the first 12 months of energy data that you entered, but you can change that baseline. You can kind of use that baseline as what your starting point is and then track your current score against that. And if you'll remember, 50 is kind of an average median building, and then you need 75 or higher to be eligible for Energy Star certification. So what are the next steps? Well, beyond making sure to update your portfolio manager every time you get new bills so you can continue to track your score and your energy performance over time. Really, the tool, as we said, is used for benchmarking purposes, so you can see kind of where things stand at the current moment. The kind of graph timeline I show here is not like hard and fast rules, but kind of general recommendations. If your Energy Star score is below 50, that means your building is a below average energy performer. But the good news is that there's a lot of opportunity for energy savings. So it probably makes a lot of sense to go after the low-hanging fruit, the low and no cost measures, like training your staff and parishioners to turn off lights when they're not needed, buying a programmable thermostat. And these will have you'll see relatively smaller savings, but savings that are immediate. And then if your score is a little bit higher, maybe in the 50 to 75 range, you might consider more expensive upgrades like replacing lights with LED bulbs, replacing appliances with Energy Star. And then at the higher end, if you're already seeing a score of 75 or above, that's great, but there's also still room for some improvement. So that's when you might consider really the bigger energy investments, like replacing or upgrading your HVAC system, looking at your building's envelope, so upgrading windows and insulation, or looking at solar at your building. These do have a longer, we're saying longer return on investment, longer payback period for when they pay for themselves, but they might net greater savings over the life of that equipment. Just a few additional tips here. The first one is really when you're setting up that property initially, try to do it in one sitting. And if you don't have all the values that it's asking for, use those defaults. It's really hard to kind of save in the middle of that process and come back to it. And then the next one is there are those default values available, but try to use your own actual values whenever possible. That'll result in the most accurate Energy Star score. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, there's that test mode that you can use. Just play around with the tool and see what it has available. There's a lot of cool features like creating goals and additional metrics you can look at. So I highly recommend, just playing around in the tool.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And I would just like to send out a big kudos to our intern, Maya Justice, who put together that presentation on Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So all questions about that, go to her. So, all right, so these are all great ideas. And we often find in speaking with facts that access to information or knowing what to take as your first step sometimes is a barrier to taking action. So we're hoping that overview on how to use Energy Star Portfolio Manager in the previous webinars on energy audits will help improve your knowledge on energy audits and your building energy efficiency. The second part is always cost. How am I going to pay for this? Because there are always limited funds, no matter what organization you have. And so there are multiple funding sources to support climate action. One is through grants, and Faith Alliance for Climate Solution put forward a Buildings Up grant where they received 20 letters of support from faith communities in the Nova area. The county has also submitted a federal grant as well to support solar sanctuaries and resilient hubs in the county. There is also the elective or direct pay through the Inflation Reduction Act. So for example, if you have done all these efficiency upgrades and wanted to move on to renewable energy sources, you can get up to 30% back on your investment for solar. So that's a really big chunk of change. But what Ken and I are going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about the Fairfax County Energy Conservation Assistance Program, which is a local financial incentive. And then I'm going to hand it over to Ken to talk about Dominion's energy programs. So the Fairfax County Energy Conservation Program, some of you may know of it as CAP-E. It is a cost share reimbursement grant program that was established over 10 years ago in partnership with the county and the Northern Virginia Soil Water Conservation District. It's a 50-50 cost share reimbursement grant program. And that means once you make an application to request funding, Once you have completed the project, you submit your receipts and you can get 50% back of the cost or up to $5,000 on your energy project. What that program has funded to date have been energy efficiency projects and energy audits. This year, starting October 24th, the Energy Conservation Assistance Program will be updated to enhance its ability to help eligible organizations take climate action. So it's still the same program. We're just changing some of the eligibility reimbursement elements of that program that I'll explain in this and the next slide. So for example, the current program, you're limited to 1 application per year. We're allowing organizations to submit up to 2 applications per year, one if it's an energy audit and another one for a project that was recommended by that energy audit. If you already have an energy audit completed within the last couple of years, you are eligible to apply for up to 2 applications of energy projects. If you're not interested in doing an energy audit, you can still apply for 1 project per year. We will begin accepting applications October 24th. And while the new website is under development, the current website that you see here will be redirected to the new web page once it is live. So this slide provides you with information on what are the projects that are eligible under the Energy Conservation Assistance Program. Many of them are what has been available since 2015 and include low to no cost items or low cost items such as weatherization, occupancy or sensors or smart thermostats, to moderate to higher cost items such as Energy Star appliances, HVAC systems, window replacements. And then we are also supporting resilient type projects such as cool roofs, battery storage, as well as solar panels. If you do not see a project that you want to do on this list, please apply, talk with one of the staff members, and we can evaluate if that would be a project that would be eligible. And of course, energy audits will continue to be supported through this program. So what does this program provide you with through this cost share reimbursement? For energy audits will be reimbursed up to $5,000. The current reimbursement amount was only $750. Understanding what it actually costs to do a level 2 energy audit, we realized that there was a need to really bump up that reimbursement level. So it's $5,000 or 50%. If you are located in a designated equity area, that reimbursement would be 75%. There are energy efficiency and conservation projects, clean energy, renewable energy, and resilient projects that may also be supported through this program. For any one of these types of programs, the reimbursable amount is up to $10,000 or 50% of the cost. And again, if you're located in a designated equity area, it's 75%. This program will be renewed every year based on available funding. Each organization is eligible for a maximum reimbursement amount of $15,000 per year. So we're hoping that it's putting a few smiles on your faces and a little bit more of the I can do this type of attitude when you go back and speak with your congregation or board of trustees, that this makes it a little bit easier for you to take those next steps. So before I hand it over to Ken, here are some resources that you can look into for additional information that was shared on this website. And here's the contact information for both Kevin and myself. Again, this presentation will be shared via fax, and so you don't need to be writing down this information, as you'll have a digital copy for your reference later on. I'm going to stop sharing now, Christine.
Okay, so we have a few questions in the chat section. Kevin has already answered a few. If you want to take a look, the ones that haven't been answered, is Energy Star audit sponsored by Dominion Energy?
No, that is an EPA program. And if you go on to the Energy Star program website on EPA, there are a number of resources that they provide that are specific to places of worship. And so that is developed in a program through EPA, the Energy Protection Agency.
Okay, next question.
Environmental Protection Agency.
Next question. Would I find difficult to navigate all of the financial assistance programs for my place of worship? Who can I turn to figure out what program will help me? I mean, I have some thoughts, Neely, if you have thoughts as well.
Yeah, well, certainly we can provide you with assistance on the Energy Conservation Assistance Program. And depending on where you are, we can direct you to resources for the Inflation Reduction Act. There are fact sheets, on that as well. There may be, as you will hear from Ken in the next presentation, utility sponsored programs. But I also understand that particular faith communities also might have some grant opportunities or funding support through their green team or equivalent initiatives.
If I can interject, Neely, this is Scott from Facts. Just this morning, we did manage to put up some guides for congregations on how they can apply to the federal government's direct pay or elective pay programs, which can, underwrite up to 30% of some of your programs. It's a complicated program. It's put out by the IRS, so there's a lot of rules. So we managed to distill that down with our law firm to 3 documents. If you look under, go to our website at Faith for Climate, under the Faith Communities tab, and then click on Solar Sanctuaries. At the bottom, you'll find 3 different documents. We will make those documents more prominently available in the future, but they're there for you now.
And we'll also send those resources out in the email to follow this presentation. Maybe we have time for one more question. Any advice on entering hours of operation in Energy Star Portfolio Manager if a church worships on Sunday, has office staff during business hours, and evening meetings for community groups and volunteers?
I would just say try to use your best estimate. It doesn't have to be perfect. Every building has variable hours of operation. So just ask for weekly operating hours. So try to find a total kind of typical week where you total up your worship hours, your office hours, and other kind of events. And that's where if you can define in Portfolio Manager separate areas for your worship space, your office space, your meeting space, it makes it a little bit easier to enter those operating hours.
Right. And again, the operating hours, if I'm correct, Kevin, does not directly affect your energy score.
They do.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's important.
And that's something that you want to be as accurate and honest as possible, of course. But if you use the test property, you can kind of see how much of an impact that has on your score.
Thanks, Kevin.
Two quick questions, if I may, Neely. The first is, I think we have a couple of firms that can do energy audits that we want to provide to people. Are we ready to do that yet?
I know Scott Donaldson, if I can call him out. I see that he is on the webinar with Home Energy Medics, who has been very generous with his time and has provided services to a number of places of worship already. But I'll defer to Scott. And so we are working with Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions to try to identify those consulting services, as I understand that has been a barrier, as well.
Scott, can you perhaps post your information on how people can contact you in the chat, or is there anything you want to say briefly about that?
Well, I can just chime in here a second. We do have experience with working with all different levels of audits with faith communities, everything from the full up multiple blower doors with all kinds of Cat 5 cable connected, and get the real empirical data down to kind of the walkthrough sneak and peek, which would be kind of more like a level 1 ASHRAE audit, or ASHRAE level 1 audit. I think the sweet spot's going to be, for most people, is going to be that ASHRAE level 2, which is a little more detailed. Happy to discuss that with anybody as they start figuring out what they want to do and how they can do it, and go from there. So I'm remote here right now, so if I could just ask for some help in posting this in the chat, but you can they can contact me directly at Donelson, SDONELSON at homeenergymedics.com, MEDICS.com. And then our office line is 703-447-5379. And then I'd be happy to talk to folks directly. My cell is 571-882-3115.
Thank you, Scott. And I do want to say that Scott Donaldson's firm was a recipient of the FACT Sustainability Award this year.
Great. Okay, so
Neely, are we moving on?
Yes. How about Ken Previs, if you would like to share your screen, and we'll learn a little bit more about Dominion Energy's programs.
Everybody, sorry, just waiting for them to give me permission to share my screen.
You should. Is there a green highlight?
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay.
Okay, while we're waiting for that, I do want to ask another question, Neely. My understanding is that in the first phase, there will be a limited number of grants. So if that is true, if I'm right about that, it's incumbent upon those people who are on the call today to move quickly. Don't put this on the list for next month.
Yeah, there's a total of $250,000 behind the county's energy conservation assistance program, based on the maximum award, maximum reimbursement amount that may translate to 14 to 20 grants. But that can also be 20 to 30, depending on the costs that are being submitted for reimbursement. But yes, we do encourage you to, of course, take advantage of the energy audit rebate, and as well as the projects themselves. Thank you for that extra time there, Scott. I see
This is a big opportunity, folks. Don't delay.
Great. Take it away, Ken. Okay. Does Ken have audio?
I apologize.
There we go.
Thank you, everybody, for your time this afternoon. I will try to stick to my 15 minutes. Just so everybody has an understanding, the relationship with Honeywell and Dominion. Dominion Energy, back in 2011, started hiring a third party to implement their energy programs. Dominion has currently hired Honeywell for the last 11 years to be running their commercial portfolio. And today we will cover the different commercial programs out there that are applicable for you all to participate in. I'm going to give you all the point of context. Actually, the main point of contact, because I know that it's a lot of stuff that y'all are trying to keep up with. If y'all want, right up here is my name and my direct phone number. If you do not get me, feel free to send me a text. That's probably the best way to get me a lot of times, as my voicemail does seem to fill up pretty quick. I am the senior program coordinator. I've been running the program since the very first program. The following people, Hanas and Barb, myself and Josh and Alex, We have a few others. There are some of my counterparts I brought on to help run different divisions of the programs. So again, my number 804-212-4149. Y'all have this slide. One of the programs that we feel is the most advantageous for you all is what they call this Small Business Improvement Program. And yes, y'all as worship facilities can qualify for this program. And actually, if it wasn't for the worship facilities, this program would not be in existence today. I believe churches and funeral homes were the #1 customers that we've had that participate in the programs that made these programs a huge, huge success. So the biggest thing, and I stress, because the #1 issue I see with a lot of churches, there's often we see a lot of worship facilities that will have a residential account associated with their account number for some reason. If that is the case, y'all gonna have that switched over, but it does need to be a GS1, GS2 rate schedule for y'all to be able to participate. We've seen some other rate schedules out there, but the main thing that we're going to look at is your KWH demand per month. As long as we're under 100 KWH demand and you're not a residential account, we will be able to get you guys qualified for the program. It needs, for the small business, we look at facilities that have 5 or less locations under one EIN number. So each worship, I believe, would be its own EIN number. So that should not be an issue. They're going to look at your KW demand over the last 12 months. And as long as you do not exceed that amount more than twice in a 12-month period, you can qualify. And I do want to back up real quick and stress, a lot of people have asked us and said, well, if I participate, how is that going to affect my bill? Just so you know, these programs, you guys as a residential customer and as a Dominion commercial account, pay a rider every single month already. When these programs get approved, the State Corporate Commission gives Dominion permission to put a small tax rider, and that rider is what funds these programs. So as Scott had stressed earlier about participating because limited funding for some of the other programs, this here is a first come, first serve, and it is a you use it or lose it type scenario. I mean, you're paying for it and you might as well take full advantage of it. We will go over some different measures throughout there that are no cost to y'all. Once when you decide that y'all want to go forward with some different programs or measures, you will simply contact myself and I'll point you in the right direction. It's a questionnaire with 6 questions, very simple to answer. You'll need your account number. And then from there, you'll have an application that you'll get submitted to us as well. During that submittal, we'll need certain information. If y'all are deciding to go from TH or fluorescent lighting to LED, we have phenomenal incentives for that. Through the SBI program, we have negotiated with contractors to get the best price possible for labor. And we've also negotiated pricing with certain manufacturers that we will allow their products to be in the program, but they have to give us or give the customer a better pricing. Everything's done directly between you and the contractor. We're here just to vet, make sure that they're qualified, that they are in the program, what they're selling as far as LED products are in fact DLC listed. And same thing with Energy Star ratings. An example, if you have a 2x4 fixture in your facility and you want to switch it out, we offer $60 incentive per 2x4 fixture. It's also go for linears, parking lots, parking garages. There's a large number of lighting opportunities that y'all can participate in. The other thing that we have that has been extremely successful with the worship facilities is a measure called the duct test and duct seal. That measure, the contractor I will set you up with a contractor that can do it. There's some that will do it at no cost, some at a cost, but we'll point you in the right direction. They come in, they check your duct work, starting from the register, working their way back to the main trunk line. They have to find and identify leaks, and they also have to do the repair. The average savings on this originally was estimated to be 15 to 20% reduction on your heating and cooling costs, which is very substantial. We have actually found these older facilities from the 90s and older are getting even better savings than that. So it is something very worthwhile looking at. Another thing that they will do while they're out there is they will look at your HVAC equipment, and they can do a one-time tune-up on that HVAC equipment for you. Again, they will invoice us directly. It's no cost to y'all. Again, use it or lose it. This will give you great savings, and then you can take that extra savings that you get on your bill and use that towards other projects that y'all want to do down the road. We also have incentives for refrigeration. I believe Fairfax has stuff for Energy Star equipment. We do too. So there's other measures that y'all can double down on. And we also have incentives for window film. So if you need to install window film on your window because you got too much solar heat gain coming through, you put the window film. We have incentives to help reduce that cost as well. Here's just a sample of the incentive chart where we have the tune-ups and the light measures. So a vast variety of the 2x4s, linear bars, and so forth, exterior fixtures. Sorry, I'm keeping track of my time. Here's one of the facilities, Chester Presbyterian Church. They had participated in the program and had a lot of success. They were very pleased in the results that they had with their overall energy reduction on their bill. We also have, for larger facilities that may not qualify for the SBI, we have other programs out there. The prescriptive program kind of mimics some of the measures in the SBI. This program currently, we are out of money. We are hoping to get some more funding at the first of the year, but that will go extremely fast. So I've been telling people, if you want any hopes of getting in it and you're a very large facility, we need to talk now, get that paperwork with the unit information, everything already into the system. We also have stuff for kitchen appliances and refrigeration equipment as well. Lighting, we have a regular lighting program for larger facilities. The rest of the programs will all be for larger facilities in case your worship facility is much larger than 100 kW demand a month. The lighting, very similar, where the SBI paid $60 a fixture. This lighting program, for example, would pay $50 a fixture. The main difference in the two is the SBI, you have to use one of their contractors, where the rest of the programs, the lighting program, you can use a contractor of your choice or do it in-house. And we see a lot of worship facilities choose to do stuff in-house. So that may be a big opportunity for you all. This rebate would basically pay about 40 to 70% of the rebate cost, depending on what type of fixture you go with. The other thing they have is low cost screw-in LEDs as well for your can lights and so forth. So that's something else for us to talk about. If you all got a lot of track lights and can lights, please reach out to me. We can see what we can do to help get a lot of that reduced, and those have savings of upwards of 80+% per bulb. The optimization automation program, this is one of my favorites. This program is for those who are looking at installing new control systems in your facility from the ground up, and we're talking about a full building automation system. But a lot of facilities, especially in the worship facilities, may not go to that high level of a automation system, and they may just use programmable Wi-Fi thermostats. By installing them, one, under the SBI, we can get you incentive dollars for that to go towards it. And then by you making adjustments to your set points on that control, we will pay you per kWh. We have, I guess, a good example, everybody knows the Walgreens, they're getting between $3,000 to $7,000 per facility by doing the audit and making adjustments on their control system. So some very strong incentives. We have other facilities of 30,000 plus square feet that have got incentives of over $35,000. So again, there are some extremely lucrative incentives, and my time's limited here. So if y'all have questions about it, please feel free to reach out to me. The other plus about this program here is you do not need to install new controls to participate. If you already have programmed Wi-Fi thermostats or a building control system for your HVAC, you can participate just by making those adjustments. So again, if you have any questions on any of this, feel free to reach out to me directly and we can go into more depth or detail. We also have an engagement program. This program has been in the making. It is very new. It just really started rolling out in the last couple months. What I recommend is once you take advantage of the automation or optimization program, about a year later, you can look at the engagement. And basically what this does is a software that they tie into your system, and Dominion has no control of it. It's strictly your system to control and manipulate how you wish. But what it does is give you daily challenges. It lets you know when you're having spikes and peaks, because if you spike and bring all your HVAC equipment all on at 5 a.m., for example, to heat up the place, you're going to have a spike there, and then you're paying that spike overage for a long period of time. That's why dialing in your controls is extremely important. And this engagement system can also help monitor that as well and let you know where you're at with these spikes and overages on your bill. And then it'll give you daily and weekly challenges, what to do to help reduce your energy load. We also have a new construction program. If y'all are building a new place of worship or doing an addition to your facility, please contact me. We have an absorbent amount of money for new construction projects, and these incentives will actually be bundled together for all your measures you're doing, and it's a one-stop shop basically. And the incentives, where some of these programs pay out 4 to 7 cents a kWh, this here will pay out at 7 cents or 10 cents a kWh. So if y'all have any new construction projects going on, please let us know before the ground breaks, basically. We need to be able to give some input or insight on this for us to be able to pay an incentive on that. And I think that pretty much covered everything. And I got 14 seconds to spare if y'all got any questions.
Thank you, Ken. I have a question from Bill Marsh. It says, Ken, my church has 4 outdoor pole-mounted lights that illuminate the church parking lot at night. The fixtures are old and not as efficient as LEDs, and my church's monthly Dominion bill lists the outdoor light as part of the monthly bill. Does the Small Business Improvement Program support the upgrade of outdoor lighting to LEDs?
Okay, excellent question. So that's a trick question. So yes, we do have incentives for pole lights, but I need to understand her bill more, because there are some facilities that have the lighting included in their monthly bill. So that's a Dominion owned light, and that light pole. So we have to go on there, would come out pre-inspected, make sure it does not have a Dominion ID number on the pole. If it's not, and the church owns that pole and those lights, then yes, we can pay incentives on it. If not, my guess is those lights are probably a high pressure sodium, which is a very yellowish color light. The light output on those are horrible. Unfortunately, Dominion typically doesn't change the lights out until they're completely gone, and those things seem to never die. They'll put out 1 foot candle of light, and that's about it for years. But if you have an instance with that, please contact me directly. We'll come out, look at it, make sure that it is not a Dominion owned. If so, we can try to see what we can do with Dominion to help get those switched out as well. But if they're on where they're paying a monthly service fee on that light, their bill is their bill constantly. That won't change no matter if it runs 24/7 or just 6 hours a day. They're paying a fixed amount to Dominion for it.
Thank you. Ken, are Dominion's programs available to all eligible congregations in its territory, regardless of where in Virginia?
Absolutely. If you are a Dominion customer, meaning you get your bill directly from Dominion, because there are some co-ops that buy their power from Dominion. If the co-ops buy their power from Dominion and you get a bill from the co-op, not Dominion, you're not eligible. But as long as you get a bill directly from Dominion and you are a commercial customer, you are qualified. I've only seen maybe a dozen accounts where it was for the pastor, that house that they stayed in, and they used it for office as well. Those were only type of facilities for the worships that did not qualify, and some of them actually got it changed over to a commercial account afterwards so that they were able to participate. But yes, almost every single place of worship should qualify.
Thank you so much. This question is not to anyone in particular. It says, my church was approached by Star Energy to have a free energy assessment. Is this legit? Does anybody know? Perhaps Scott may have some.
Yes, Star Energy is one of our participants in one of the programs. I would recommend having multiple people do it. Never go just. I want to recommend one with one for those assessments. And we can help point you in the right direction, give you 2-3 different contractors to talk to about that.
That's fantastic. I think we got all of the questions in the chat. Does anybody have a question they'd like to ask directly? You can feel free to unmute yourself.
This is Scott Donaldson. Just a comment on Star Energy. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Star Energy, but I know we also participate in a Dominion programs, and not necessarily at the commercial level right now, but that can be done. But I would say anybody that's offering a free assessment for a big church, I hold a healthy dose of skepticism with that, because that's usually a pretty big undertaking for a church. So
that's thank you for your comment. Trying to be politically correct, and that's why I was saying reach out to me so I can point you in the right direction and put you in touch with some other contractors within our portfolio, and yourself as well. I mean, I'd love to talk to you and get you involved in the programs as well if you're interested in doing them.
Okay, any other questions?
No, I would just like to add that as these materials will be distributed, that any, examples that we provided are just that, just examples. And so the depending on, where you need to prioritize investments to improve your energy efficiency, it's going to be very place specific. And so your low-hanging fruit or low-cost items, might be different than others, or the high-cost items, because it varies on what systems you already have, in place as an existing, facility. So just keep that in mind as you review these materials and take a closer look at the information and resources we shared today.
Thank you so much, Neely, and thank you so much, Ken, and thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Christine. This has been a great webinar. I think I'm sure that you probably share my excitement about how Fairfax County is really moving forward, and the state through Dominion. We have so much work to do, but the faith community can lead the way. Thank you, Christine. I think we're done. Yep.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.